Welcome to this graduation ceremony, in which above all we celebrate the achievements of you, our graduates. Those are the words with which I begin my address when we have face-to-face graduations in the Senate House of the University of London. But they apply even more strongly at this virtual ceremony, which we've had to do online for safety reasons. Because the normal Birkbeck student in ordinary times has to juggle their studies, perhaps with their work, with their family responsibilities, and achieves their goals through dedication and hard work. But you, today's graduates, have had to do that and even more. You've had to study online. You've had to perhaps cope with the distractions at home. You've had to cope with the internet perhaps not working very well. Or maybe you had to fight for the kitchen table with your partner who also wanted to use it for their work. So you have achieved your aims despite these tremendous difficulties, and today is about saluting your achievements. Equally, of course, I want to thank your partners, your relatives and friends for the support they've given you, perhaps by yielding up the kitchen table to you so that you could work, or perhaps by helping with the children so that they didn't disturb you when you were trying to study. So thank you to you, but also another message for you, the relatives and friends, and that is that Birkbeck is for everyone. You could study at Birkbeck and achieve your aims. You could seize back the kitchen table for our online provision, which is now combined with in-person activities and lectures in Birkbeck itself. And there has never been a better time to study at Birkbeck. In 2 weeks' time, we will reach our 198th anniversary of our foundation. Only 2 years to go to the 200th anniversary. And of course, very few institutions reach their 200th anniversary, but still fewer do it doing something that their founders would recognize. If George Birkbeck would miraculously appear now, he might not understand about virtual study online, might not understand about the particular subjects that you've been studying, but he would understand about educating working Londoners for the benefit of their careers and the benefit of the economy. So we are fulfilling that mission as we have done for 198 years. And that mission has never been more necessary. With the fourth industrial revolution, with COVID, with Brexit, many jobs will disappear and other jobs and other career pathways will appear. And so it will be very important for people in the workforce to be flexible, not to just stay in the same employment, but to retrain and reskill in order to have new opportunities. And that is what we do. Government has recognised that with its lifelong learning entitlement, proposals around letting each individual have a 4-year entitlement to learning at FE or HE level. But we need to lobby the government for better provision. Many of the details of that lifelong learning entitlement remain to be announced, and we need to make sure that it will benefit everybody who wants to study whatever subject and whatever the reason for study. In turn, Birkbeck is doing its best to provide our students with the very best facilities. A couple of weeks ago, the Mayor of Camden opened our new building in Euston Road, a state-of-the-art teaching facility with rooms for lectures and small group teaching, but also with facilities for social activities of our students or interaction in their learning between different students and between groups of students. That will be carried further in the new building that we've purchased. So over the summer, we bought the old Student Central building adjacent to our main Mallard Street building, and which has now been renamed Birkbeck Central. And we intend to develop that as a further teaching facilities for the student union and for student social and social learning. And that will allow us to achieve an aim we've had for many years, that all students will be taught on Birkbeck premises, where we control the IT, we can provide the appropriate facilities, and no longer will our students struggle in rented accommodation provided by other institutions. So it's an exciting time for Birkbeck as we move towards the 200th anniversary. But fundamentally, today is about saluting your achievements. You have become part of the 198-year history of Birkbeck in lifelong learning. And when people look back on this and say, what happened about the graduating class of 2021? They will say that was a very special class. They overcame difficulties unprecedented in modern history, perhaps since the Second World War. And so they have a special claim to fame in the Birkbeck history. On behalf of myself, the teaching staff, and everyone at Birkbeck, I salute your achievements and congratulate you on your graduation. Thank you.
This has certainly been the most challenging year, and we're incredibly proud of you all for having made it to graduation. We would have loved to have been there in the Senate House, seeing you all in your gowns and graduation hats, meeting your family and friends, taking pictures and sharing in this very special moment. Please do keep in touch, and if you're ever in the Bloomsbury area, drop by once we are allowed to do so. So from everyone here in the Department of Economics, Mathematics and Statistics, a huge well done and many, many congratulations.
Vice-Chancellor, President and distinguished guests, I present the following graduates from the School of Business, Economics and Informatics. BSc Economic and Social Policy, Stuart Watson, Samuel Webster, Gulnar Anagel-Dieva, Namonde Halongwa, Robinson Alexis Palacios Munoz. BSc Economics, Shaista Mohidien, Gelek Sawang, Hamna Shazad, Adhiam Enli Otti, Sarah Benaziza, Asan Shahriyar, Azim Khan, Khadija Anam, Matthew Williams, Justino Quade. If I could all ask you to unmute your microphones and a round of applause, please. BSc Economics and Business, Arjun Saur, Adriano Mostardi, Vanessa Justino, Siobhan Aldridge, Faraz Ahmed, Latif Rasaki, David Furco, Samuel Augustine, Isra Rana, Benjamin Androne, Robert Taylor, Marim Tavhelize, Merari Hernandez, Nakem Dilam Mordi, Yixuan Kai. BSc Economics with Mathematics, William Scopsey Goody. Again, if I could ask you all to unmute your microphones and a round of applause, please.
Well done.
BSc Financial Economics, Teresa Lurchter, Saud Al-Shagroud, Francesco Cesarano, JP Dostos, Du Pham, Simon Lee, Minea Sikaru, Digby Neve, Arna Slaker. BSc Financial Economics with Accounting, Gregorio Nizel Schmidt. BSc Mathematics, Johan Chur, Ayeng Chan, Nayusha Martin, Alice Powell, Vincent Ragpore. BSc Mathematics with Accounting, Sebastian Q. BSc Mathematics with Economics, Minahil Farouk, Hafsa Hassan, Sayarial Zainuddin. BSc Mathematics with Management, Ahmed Nur Mohammed. Cert HE Mathematics, Stefano Palueo. Cert HE Economics, Billy Lung. If I could ask you to unmute your microphones and a round of applause, please.
Yay!
Graduate Certificate in Statistics, Louis Grimaldi, Rebecca Wong, Mohammed Saqib, Emmanuel Mnetu, Olga Lepova, Martin Huing. Graduate Diploma in Economics, Zavinta Kukaskien, Stuart Krause, Melanie Wilkes, Nadia Ashrafi, James Troop, Anderson Yin Eleuterio, Bryn Moore Proudlove Wilkes, Alexander Martin, David Lewis, Boylio Kongmabom, Patrick Chan, Deborah Bates, Bridget Adams, Zail Sadiq. Graduate Diploma in Mathematics, Wai Hung Liu, Chirag Pithia, Randish Sandhu. Graduate Diploma in Statistics, Jonathan Eig. Again, please unmute your microphones and a round of applause, please. MSc Economics, Rebecca Davies. MSc Financial Economics, Thomas Willman. MSc Financial Economics, Grant Rose. And PhD Mathematics, Adetonkumbo Olofoden. Thesis title is Multi-Period Pricing Theory. So if I could ask you to unmute your microphones and a round of applause, please. This concludes the presentation of graduates from the School of Business, Economics, Informatics. On behalf of myself and my colleagues at Birkbeck, I'm really pleased and honoured to be able to congratulate you as graduating students today in our virtual ceremony. Your achievements in getting to the end of your studies would, in normal circumstances, be an extremely momentous occasion. However, the challenges over the last 18 months make this even more so. It demonstrates the commitment and resilience that you've all shown to your studies during your time here at Birkbeck. I'd therefore like to thank you very much indeed for attending this virtual graduation today, congratulate you on your success again, and wish you all the very best for the future. I now hand you over to my colleague.
Today, it is my great honour to welcome David Simmons to a college fellowship here at Birkbeck, University of London. 2015 will be remembered for one photograph that seared its way into the world's consciousness. On the 2nd of September that year, the lifeless body of a Kurdish Syrian refugee called Alan Kurdi washed up on a beach near to a southern Turkish resort. Like many 3-year-old boys worldwide, he was wearing blue shorts and a red t-shirt. Alan Kurdi, his mother Rehen, and his 5-year-old brother Gallup also drowned that day. They had been so desperate to flee the political violence in Syria that they had made contact with people smugglers, who boarded them onto an unstable, inflatable boat making its way to the Greek island of Kos. They never arrived. The plight of refugees such as Alan Kurdi, as well as other vulnerable people in our world, are some of the political issues dear to the heart of David Simmons. He mobilized his formidable talents to get councils to find homes for 20,000 vulnerable Syrian refugees. Half of those resettled through the Vulnerable Persons Resettlement Scheme were children. The scheme has been described by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees as the gold standard. Throughout recent years, Simmons's voice has been a powerful one in denouncing human traffickers who, in his words, prey on the misery and desperation of those seeking sanctuary and safety. It is an evil trade. With Alan Kurdi's body in mind, he reported that, given that asylum claims can only be made by those who are physically in the UK, we need to offer safe, legal routes for people to come. rather than risk people arriving on small boats across the channel. He noted, "This is not, as it is often unhelpfully framed, a choice between compassion and robust management of our borders. Offering safe legal routes into the country is part of our commitment to protecting the most vulnerable." In other words, Symonds wants to make a difference. And to do so, he argues that the government has got to turn the sentimental commitment into a practical one. It is important also to note his commitment as chair of the local government association's Asylum, Migration and Refugee Task Group to community participation and support. To effectively resettle refugees and other vulnerable people, human relationships are key. Symonds has spoken eloquently about the divisive nature of discussions about immigration. When campaigning in elections, he admits that his constituents and voters are very concerned to see that our borders are effectively managed. However, he adds, they tend to have a very positive view of the migrants and refugees they know in their community and in their neighbourhood. This is the delicate conundrum that concerns him. So, who is Symonds? Well, he was born in Kent, 1976, and educated at the Cardinal Newman Roman Catholic Comprehensive School in Pontypridd. From there, he went on to the University of Durham, Grey College, with its famous emblem of the phoenix rising from the flames, which is a reference to the fact that a fire almost destroyed the college before it opened in 1959. While at Durham, he joined the Union Society, which exposed him to a wide variety of viewpoints, including those of the Trotskyist Dave Nallist, inspiration for Private Eye's Dave Spart of the Loony Left, gay rights activist Peter Tatchell, and speakers representing the right-wing Monday Club. He claims that being exposed to such diversity of arguments helped him to become, in his words, a more socially liberal and a more enlightened person. On leaving the University of Durham, he started on a path that moved from an interest in insurance to one of politics. He made the move to Birkbeck, where he gained a postgraduate certificate, then a financial planning certificate from the Chartered Institute of Insurers, CII. A graduate traineeship at the leading insurance company Eagle Star led to jobs at Lloyd's TSB and HSBC. But politics was in his blood. Only a year after qualifying with the CII in 1997, he was elected councillor for the London Borough of Hillingdon. He was only 22 years old at the time, the youngest councillor in London. There, he threw his energies into children's services, education, social services, housing, planning. He always gave back to his communities. He worked as a magistrate, a trustee of the Early Intervention Foundation, a board member of the Teachers' Pension Scheme, and chair of the National Employers Organisation for School Teachers. His reputation soared as a result of his roles as deputy chair and deputy leader of the local government association. As we heard, he was chair of the Asylum, Refugee and Migration Task Force, as well as the Children and Young People Board and the Improvement and Innovation Board. Champion of local communities, saw him awarded a CBE in the 2015 Birthday Honours List. In 2019, he took his huge talents and experience to Parliament. He was elected Conservative MP for Islip, Northwood and Pioneer on the 13th of December 2019, winning a 56% of the vote to Labour's, the runner-up's, 25%. Now, an oration of such a short length, it's just impossible for me to do justice to all of Symonds's achievements and political philosophy. In reading his speeches and policy interventions, he emerges as a man of principle and compassion. He dedicates incredible energy to standing up for the more vulnerable people in our communities. For example, he is concerned about the ways COVID-19 and lockdowns have had a particularly harming impact on migrants and asylum seekers, dramatically increasing their imminent risk of destitution. He believes that the future of the nation lies with children. He insists that levelling up people and places must mean investing in children and families. This has led him to argue strongly for enhanced investment in children's services. Such investment, he says, has the ability to transform people's lives. He aims to set in place supports and mechanisms that will create a life that can be seen as a good and positive one, that a person can enjoy and where they can contribute. It will mean early intervention, however, and of course this means money. But he reminds fellow politicians that the inability to fund early intervention will increase costs to the public sector in the long run, as emerging problems go unaided until urgent and crisis-based interventions are required, placing pressure on other services such as the police and A&E. He adds that the lifelong human and financial costs associated with childhood trauma can be significant. For Simmons, helping families is core to who we are as conservatives. His policies could make a transformative difference. Simmons also has strong views on education for older people. Since his experiences with the Union Society at the University of Durham, he has become committed to free speech. Recently, when the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill was discussed in Parliament, he could be heard arguing that being exposed to new opinions and having your worldview challenged is an important part of academic development. Now, he acknowledges, of course, that this may have the potential to make some people feel uncomfortable. But nevertheless, freedom of speech is vital to the university. He believes that the legislation will not continue to demonstrate the UK is a place of free speech and the peaceful exchange of views. Finally, what about the man? Well, his wife is a doctor in the NHS and he has 2 children. He enjoys good wine, modern British prints, and presumably prior to lockdown, travelling in Europe. He also collects tennis shoes. But today we celebrate him for the way he serves politics as a way of making a difference and strengthening democracy. Great honour to a college fellowship.
Thank you very much indeed to Professor Birk for that very generous introduction and statement of the reasons why I'm here at this ceremony today. Perhaps starting out with a personal comment. Birkbeck is an institution which has been close to my heart for a long time. When I was a very young child, my father benefited from access to the educational opportunities that it provided. My wife was one of Birkbeck's lecturers when I first met her. And when I had the opportunity to pursue a postgraduate certificate, it created a route that was otherwise not available to me, as it does for so many other Londoners, so many people from around the country, to pursue a course of study that will, at the very least, develop one's thinking and one's ideas, and often lead into opportunities to move into professional work, to create new job opportunities that would otherwise simply not be available when other institutions often require full-time and daytime attendance. So when Professor Latchman asked me to become a fellow, it was a privilege to say yes, and to be able to champion the value that Birkbeck and a small number of other institutions like it bring to the world of education in our country. In that very generous introduction, the theme of refugees ran through very strongly. From my earliest days in Hillingdon, when the responsibilities of a local authority for unaccompanied refugee children included thinking about how we gave them access to education so they could take their place in our society for the long-term future with the qualifications they needed, reminded me very much that we need to ensure that those words of lifelong learning are things that are created in reality. And that's about making sure that our further education policies, our schools, our early years system recognises the contribution that it can make. Because ultimately, although the controversy around Margaret Thatcher's comments when she said there is no such thing as society demonstrated that it's a challenging issue, we need to remember as politicians that we're dealing with a country of around 65 million individuals, and each of those people needs to be cherished, needs to be enabled to play the part that means that when we are all coming together, we're able to do so as the kind of society that we want to be for the long term. I'd like to just finish with the observation that unlike everybody else who I've seen on the screen today, I have not had to pursue a course of academic study to be here today wearing this amusing hat and the gown which demonstrates the fellowship role to which I've been appointed. And I remain enormously impressed by what I've heard and seen. It shows that Birkbeck is continuing to open up opportunities for people, to create new paths, both into work and into developing ourselves as human beings. And that will mean that it continues to play a significant role, both in the economic development of our capital city and our country, but also in the academic development, which Professor Burke touched on briefly in her comments about the Higher Education Freedom of Speech Bill, and making sure that we have the opportunity to have free debate, free discourse, and access to learning is an absolutely critical mission that many of us in Parliament share. And I look forward to drawing on the resources, the expertise, the deep well of knowledge that Birkbeck can provide to support me in championing that cause in Parliament. Thank you very much.
Greetings, everyone. Greetings to the Master, to my academic colleagues, but primarily greetings to you, the graduates today, and your family and friends who are there with you to celebrate your graduating. Congratulations to every one of you. So what is becoming clear throughout COVID, and this is the second year in which I've recorded this message. Last year it was rather more formal. I still pretended that I was at a lectern addressing a huge room full of people, but I'm not now. I was speaking from my home on my laptop to each one of you. So it's to you that I'm speaking. And what we've learned over this time is that we are living through really strange and bewildering times. We simply can't predict what's going to become of the world. What's going to become of work and how we work? What about housing? Will we work from home? Will we live in different places? Will we move to the country? Will tower blocks cease to be what we want in life as places to either work or live? What will happen to all the different issues politically around the world? And what about the planet? Will that survive? There can't have been an issue as great as that for, well, since the start of time. So here we are facing all these problems and thinking it's never been as bad as it is now. Well, let me tell you, at other epochs, it's always seemed cataclysmic in some ways. When George Birkbeck called that meeting in 1823, asking working people if they'd like an education, would they please turn up at the Crown and Anchor pub in Fleet Street, 2,000 people arrived. He must have thought the world had changed. What happened? Did he mean it? Did he expect it to be that kind of response? And of course it was. It was changing the world of education forever. He can hardly have known. And also he can hardly have known what would develop because he was living through a time of great change too. I made a note of some of them. I've got them here. The things that changed England at that time, the UK in general. But primarily, the invention, let's say, of the railways. That must have seemed like the end of the world. The railways were going to take over. America would be conquered. The West, India would be revolutionized. The invention of railways in the 1820s must have felt like heralding the end of the world as they knew it, as indeed it did. Then there was the horse-drawn omnibus in London, public transport. Nobody had ever thought of that before, except in coaches from along the highway. The combustion engine was patented, presaging the most revolutionary change in transport you can imagine. All sorts of strange institutions were founded. The Metropolitan Police happened, the Oxford Union, where so many of our politicians, so many of our prime ministers have been the leading president, including the present prime minister. The Metropolitan Police, very important. The RSPCA, people started to care about animals, the welfare of animals. So these were all interesting ways of responding to change. And then, of course, the arts was flourishing at that time. We had the great sweep of great poets. Keats, not to live long, but to write wonderful poetry that still echoes today in the hearts of today's poets. Shelley, calling for political action to be echoed by Mick Jagger years later. Byron, of course, going out to Greece where he would die, defending, fighting for Greek independence, a legend, leaving behind scandal, great poetry and political engagement. So this was an extraordinary time of change. And people would think, how are we to deal with it? It's challenging and it's a bit bewildering. Well, today is both challenging and bewildering. I would say you could sum it up in 2 words, really, briskly, from the newspaper headlines: COVID and Brexit. How are we to see both of those issues unravel and be some good? How are we to thrive? How are we to solve the problems that they present? Is the world getting better or is it getting worse? We just don't know how it's going to work out. And here's my message for you, because with every crisis, there is opportunity. George Birkbeck knew that, and I'm telling you it's your opportunity, because nothing equips people to deal with crises so much as a trained mind, knowing how to assess evidence, how to weigh up the pros and cons of argument, how to set out an argument without coming to blows, I hope, and how to deal with both the challenge and the bewilderment. Your degree at Birkbeck has put you in that position, and I urge you to use it to the utmost degree. You will relish doing so. Problem solving is one of the great delights in life, and you have problems ahead of you and the skills to resolve them. So to each and every one of you, my congratulations and good luck for the future.
Welcome to the Birkbeck alumni community.
You might be in the UK or much further afield.
It might be morning, afternoon or evening.
Wherever you are right now, we as fellow members of the Birkbeck alumni community want to send our congratulations to you for what you've achieved.
Completing a course at Birkbeck in normal circumstances is by no means an easy endeavour.
So what you have accomplished is really something truly special.
Today you are graduating, and you should take a moment to reflect what a huge accomplishment this is.
Completing your studies does not mean the end of your Birkbeck journey.
You are joining a community of over 60,000 alumni in over 140 different countries.
So no matter where you are in the world,
you won't be far from a fellow Birkbeck graduate.
There are lots of exciting events, activities, and opportunities for you to stay connected with Birkbeck.
Visit bbk.ac.uk/alumni
to find out more and update your contact details.
We are proud to share this day with you.
Have a wonderful time celebrating.
Congratulations.
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 Congratulations.